Hi, my name is Ron Roberts Jr., and I worked at the University of Southern California for over 16 years. And working at USC was truly one of the highlights of my career, if not the highlight of my career. And so I had a lot of great moments working at the university. And so I wanted to share a quick story about my time at USC. And I'm calling this story, Pete Carroll Helped Me Keep a Promise. And this story is dedicated to the memory of Lonnie White. Lonnie was a USC alumnus and former sports writer for the Los Angeles Times. And unfortunately, he passed away in 2014. And so this story is dedicated to the memory of Lonnie White. Back in April of 2005, I hosted an event called the USC-UCLA Rivalry, Perspectives from a Trojan Athlete and Journalist. And so Lonnie was a featured speaker for that event. And Lonnie, as I mentioned, was a sports writer for the Los Angeles Times at that point. He was also a former USC football player and track and field athlete. And so Lonnie and I had met the year before, and he attended another sports career event that I hosted. And so Lonnie and I got to talking, and I learned that he had recently written and published a pretty good book on the USC-UCLA rivalry, and it was called UCLA versus USC, 75 Years of the Greatest Rivalry in Sports. So a pretty nice book, lots of great pictures and other good content. And so I said, Lonnie, it would be great if you came to campus and talked about this book and about the USC-UCLA rivalry from your perspective, and while you're in the process, to share about your career as a sports journalist. And so Lonnie agreed. And so April 2005, Lonnie came to campus. He brought a couple of other guests who were also former USC athletes, and that included Rhonda Wyndham, who was a former USC basketball player. And so Lonnie and the guests did a great job of talking about the USC-UCLA rivalry from their perspectives. They gave great career advice. And unfortunately, we had a low student turnout. And so I was really bummed out about that, because I felt that Lonnie and the other guests shared such great information that I thought would benefit so many students. And so I was really bummed out. So I approached Lonnie after the event. I was very apologetic about the attendance, but Lonnie didn't care. He was just happy just to be able to share information with the students that were in attendance. And so I said to Lonnie, if you agree to come to campus and do this again, I promise you that you're going to get a lot more students. And so Lonnie smiled, and he agreed. So later that year in November, we decided to do the event again. So prior to that event, I had the challenge of trying to figure out how to get a lot more students to the event this time around. And so it dawned on me one day, hey, what if I invited Coach Pete Carroll to come and speak at the event? And so at that time, Pete Carroll was the head football coach at USC. And so I know he was very busy, but I felt if I could just get just a few minutes of his time at the beginning, and I could promote him as the headline speaker, then that would certainly generate a lot of student interest. So I called the USC athletics department. I requested for Coach Carroll, so they told me they would need to reach out to him and to see if he could do it. So they eventually got back to me, and Coach Carroll agreed to speak at the event. So I was very excited about it, but also I was a little nervous because I wasn't sure he was going to be able to follow through. He was very busy, a lot of demands on his time, and things come up. So, so in the interim, I created some flyers. I put Coach Carroll's name on the flyers. I posted the flyers around campus to create buzz. So on the day of, I was still a little nervous because I wasn't sure if the athletics department was going to call me or email me to tell me that, hey, Coach Carroll can't make it after all because something came up. So anyhow, so I'm making my way to Heritage Hall, where the event was going to take place. I get there, and I see students lined up outside the auditorium. So I knew the marketing worked out well. So I go into the auditorium. We eventually get the event going, and Coach Carroll's not there just yet. So I started to get anxious again, but eventually he arrives just as he promised. He spoke as great as was expected, and the students loved him. And so I was able to bring Lonnie up at that point and to talk about his book and his career as a sports journalist to a room full of students. It was standing room only. And so it was really exciting, and I was just happy that I was able to keep my promise to Lonnie. And so after the event, Lonnie was outside the auditorium at a table with copies of his book. And there were students lining up in droves to purchase a copy of Lonnie's book. So Lonnie was there autographing his book. And it made my heart feel so good just to be able to see Lonnie get all this attention, because he was such a good guy. And if I recall correctly, his wife was also there, and she was very appreciative of the attention that he was getting. And so it was really, really cool. And we also had a nice write-up in the Daily Trojan. So as you can see, there's a picture of Coach Carroll there. And then just below, a picture of Lonnie. It reads, panel looks at rivalry. So that was really cool. So anyhow, so Lonnie, I miss you, and I appreciate the positive impact you had on my life for the short time that we knew each other. And you left this earth way too soon. And Pete Carroll, Coach Carroll, I just want to thank you for helping me keep my promise to Lonnie. And so I hope that you enjoyed listening to the story, and thank you for listening.